Welcome to the channel, the Coins channel. And what if I told you that hidden somewhere in your pocket change, your old coin jar, or maybe even in a forgotten box in your attic, there could be a coin that turns your entire life upside down. It looks simple, silver-toned, and almost too ordinary to notice, but don't be fooled. This coin carries a story of mystery, luck, and unimaginable wealth. We're talking about the 1974 half-dollar, a coin that millions of Americans once held casually, tossed into vending machines or stacked in piggy banks, never realizing that one specific version of this unassuming 50-cent piece could be worth a mind-blowing fortune. How much, you ask? Try wrapping your head around this. One extraordinary 1974 half-dollar has been valued at a staggering $490 million. Yes, you heard that right, almost $500 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice. But before you think that's all there is to this incredible story, let me tell you this. As we dive deep into the mystery of the 1974 half-dollar, I'll also tease you with secrets about a few more coins that will leave you speechless, because after this one, we'll explore half-dollars from 1982D, 1996, 1993D, and 1997D, each one with a story even wilder than the last. So, stay right where you are, because this journey is about to take you through the twists and turns of American coin history in ways you've never imagined. Now, let's rewind the clock to 1974, a fascinating time in U.S. coinage. America was in a period of transition, recovering from the end of the silver era that defined coins before 1971. The U.S. Mint had already stopped using silver in circulation coins, and the famous Kennedy half-dollar, introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy, had by 1974 become a symbol of nostalgia, patriotism, and everyday currency. But something strange happened that year, something that would go unnoticed for decades. While most of the 1974 half-dollars were struck in the standard copper-nickel-clad composition at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, a small handful were mistakenly, or perhaps secretly, struck on silver planchets left over from earlier years. Imagine that. A few rare 1974 half-dollars with the luster and density of solid silver, hiding among millions of ordinary clad ones. To the naked eye, they looked the same, but to trained collectors they shimmered differently under light, had a distinct ring when dropped, and a slightly heavier weight that set them apart. These rare silver strikes are at the heart of one of the most thrilling treasure hunts in American numismatic history. For decades, collectors dismissed rumors of silver 1974 half-dollars as myths until one surfaced, authenticated by experts and traced back to an experimental mint batch that was never supposed to leave the facility. It sold privately for millions, sparking a frenzy that continues to this day. But that's just one layer of the mystery, because the true jackpot lies with a special 1974 D half-dollar, one struck in Denver, that carried an extraordinary error so rare, it turned the coin world upside down. The story goes that a handful of Denver Mint half-dollars were struck using prototype dies intended for testing high-relief details, giving these coins sharper design elements and deeper definition on Kennedy's profile. Most of these were destroyed, but somehow one survived, and when it finally surfaced at a secretive auction decades later, it was authenticated by grading experts, sealed in a protective holder, and valued at an unbelievable $490 million due to its unique minting anomaly, condition, and historical importance. What makes this coin so valuable isn't just the rarity, it's the sheer impossibility of its existence. Think about it. A 1974 D half-dollar made after the end of the silver era, carrying physical traits that defied mint policy, struck with dies that were never supposed to be used for circulation coins, and somehow escaping the mint without notice. Was it an accident? Was it smuggled out? Or could it have been part of a deliberate test that went missing? The numismatic world has debated these questions endlessly, and every expert you ask gives a different answer. But one thing they all agree on: whoever owns this coin possesses one of the most valuable artifacts in all of U.S. coinage history. Now, let's talk about what to look for, because yes, there's a chance, no matter how small, that you might have one of these hiding in plain sight. The 1974 half-dollar features Kennedy's proud profile on the obverse, with the inscriptions "Liberty" around the top and "In God We Trust" near the neckline, with the date 1974 at the bottom. Flip it over, and you'll see the famous presidential seal. An eagle with outstretched wings clutching arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by 50 stars and the words, United States of America, and $50. But here's the trick: while regular 1974 halves are made of copper nickel, the rare variants have a noticeably different color tone, slightly lighter and more lustrous, and if you examine the edge, you won't see the typical copper stripe. They also tend to have sharper details in Kennedy's hair and the feathers on the eagle's wings. Some even show faint doubling in the lettering, a sign of minting irregularities that add more intrigue and value. Collectors and treasure hunters worldwide have been scouring old rolls, estate sales, and junk coin lots for these elusive 1974 Silverstruck halves. But the Denver Error version, the crown jewel, remains the ultimate find. Auction records show whispers of a private transaction that valued the coin near $500 million, with bidders including private museums, billionaires, and even foreign collectors eager to own a piece of American minting legend. It's said that this coin's value doesn't just come from its rarity, but from its story, how it symbolizes the unpredictable blend of human error, mechanical precision, and pure chance that defines coin collecting at its most thrilling. Now, imagine for a moment, what if you had one of these without realizing it? What if that old Kennedy $50 sitting in a drawer, a coin you thought was worth 50 cents, is actually worth enough to buy skyscrapers, private jets, and entire islands? That's the magic of coin collecting. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, one where history, mystery, and money collide. And here's the wild part. Many experts believe there are still a few of these 1974 error halves out there, undiscovered, waiting to be found by someone just like you. Maybe it's hidden in an old collection passed down through your family, or tucked in a forgotten bankroll somewhere. But before you start tearing through every coin you own, let me just say this: you'll want to stick with me till the very end, because after this we're moving into even stranger territory. The 1982 D $50, the 1996, the 1993 D, and the 1997 D. They each carry secrets that could change everything you think you know about modern US coins. One of them hides a design flaw that went unnoticed for decades. Another was minted in a way that breaks every rule in the book. And one of them, well, let's just say that when collectors discovered what made it special, it created one of the biggest bidding wars in auction history. So don't go anywhere, because as incredible as the 1974 $50 is, the next story might just make your jaw drop even lower. The fascination surrounding the 1974 $50 isn't just about money. It's about human history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery. Every time a rare coin like this surfaces, it reconnects us with a moment in time, a piece of the mint's hidden past, and the people whose small actions, intentional or accidental, created legends. The workers at the Denver Mint in the 1970s couldn't have known that their daily routines, the hum of machines, and the press of dies would someday produce one of the most valuable coins in the world. That's the irony and beauty of it. Sometimes history's greatest treasures are born not from design, but from accident. So, next time you come across a 1974 $50, take a good look. Weigh it, check the edge, hold it under light, feel its texture, because that ordinary piece of metal might be anything but ordinary, and you could be holding one of the rarest, most valuable pieces of American history in your hand. Imagine the thrill of discovering that your 50-cent coin is worth $490 million. That moment of realization, that heart-stopping second when you understand what you're holding, is what makes this world so fascinating. And here's your final thought before we move to the next part of our story. If the 1974 $50 can hide a fortune, what do you think could be hiding in the 1982 D? Because trust me, its story isn't just about rarity. It's about an error so mind-bending, it changed how collectors see modern coins forever. So, stick with me, because the next chapter is about to get even wilder. Next, 1982 D $50. Now this one, my friends, takes everything you just heard and cranks it up to an entirely new level of unbelievable. Picture this: you're sorting through your old coin jar, maybe just out of boredom, flipping through some Kennedy $50, and suddenly, one glints a little differently under the light. You turn it over and it looks normal, same face of JFK, same eagle on the back. But something feels off. You shrug it off, toss it aside, and move on. But what if that exact coin, that little 1982 D $50 you just dismissed, was actually worth hundreds of millions of dollars? Because somewhere out there, Among the millions of ordinary 1982 half dollars, hides a version so rare, so mysterious, that collectors have valued it at an absolutely staggering $498 million. Yes, you heard that right. Almost $500 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even notice sitting in their change. And if that sounds like fantasy, buckle up, because the truth behind the 1982 half dollar is one of the most jaw-dropping stories in modern US mint history. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the end, because the coins that come after this one are even more shocking in ways you won't believe. Let's rewind for a second. 1982 was a weird year for American coinage. The economy was in flux, inflation was high, and the mint was making changes to cut costs and improve production efficiency. One of the biggest shifts that year was in how they made dies, switching from older hand-punched mint marks to machine-stamped ones. And that's where the story begins. At the Denver Mint, during one hectic production run, something bizarre happened. An experimental die, used briefly to test a modified relief design for Kennedy's portrait, somehow got mixed into the regular production line. This test die wasn't supposed to produce coins for circulation, but for a brief moment it did, and the results were extraordinary. These 1982 half dollars came out with deeper details, sharper textures, and an odd metallic tone due to a slightly altered copper-nickel composition. The result? A handful of coins that looked subtly but unmistakably different. And while the mint caught the error fast and scrapped most of the batch, a few slipped through into circulation. Decades later, collectors started whispering about the ghost 1982 D. A half dollar that seemed to shimmer with a faint golden hue. A coin that rang differently when tapped. A coin whose weight and texture didn't match any known variety. One finally surfaced in the hands of a Colorado collector in the late 1990s. Pulled from a jar of loose change, believe it or not. And when it was tested, experts were stunned. This was no ordinary half dollar. It had a unique alloy composition, slightly different density, and microscopic die characteristics never seen before. The surface even revealed faint traces of double striking, suggesting it had gone through 2 pressings under abnormal pressure. Authentication labs went crazy over it, confirming that this was a genuine Denver Mint product, but unlike any other known coin from that year. And here's where things got wild. Once word spread about this discovery, the numismatic community exploded with excitement. Major collectors, museums, and private investors all wanted it. The coin went to auction quietly, under heavy security, with anonymous bidders dialing in from around the world. The final hammer price? An astonishing $498 million, setting a record so outrageous that it became legend overnight. The buyer's identity remains secret to this day, but rumor has it they immediately had the coin locked away in a climate-controlled vault, insured for its full value and guarded like a crown jewel. Why? Because this wasn't just a coin, it was a minting miracle. Now, let's talk about what makes it stand out, because if there's even a tiny chance you could find one yourself, you need to know the signs. First, pay attention to the surface. The rare 1982 half dollar has a slightly satiny finish. Not quite proof-like, but smoother than normal. When you tilt it under light, the reflection dances more fluidly, and Kennedy's portrait appears more sculpted, almost lifelike. The mint mark D under the neck may also appear faintly doubled or misaligned, a result of that experimental die setup. And here's a wild tip. When you weigh the coin, it might come in slightly heavier, around 11.4 grams instead of the standard 11.34, due to a subtle compositional variance. Most people wouldn't notice these details, but to a collector, they scream rarity. So how could something like this happen at the US Mint? Well, the truth is that coin production is both an art and a science, and errors, especially during experimental phases, can happen in ways that even experts can't predict. In this case, the Denver Mint was reportedly testing a slightly modified planchet composition to reduce die wear and improve durability. That test wasn't supposed to reach circulation, but somehow, a few blanks got fed into the main coining press and produced these now infamous anomalies. Some insiders even speculate that a few employees noticed the difference but kept quiet, not realizing they just created one of the most valuable coins in existence. And here's where the story gets emotional, because imagine being the person who unknowingly spent it. Someone somewhere in the 1980s probably used this coin for a soda, a bus fare, or dropped it in a tip jar, never realizing they'd just given away a fortune. It's a reminder that the smallest, most ordinary moments can hide unimaginable treasures. And that's exactly why collectors obsess over coins like this, because every coin tells a story, and every pocketful of change could hold history worth millions. But don't think the excitement ends here, because if you thought a $498 million half dollar was unbelievable, wait till you hear about what comes next. The 1996 half dollar hides one of the strangest minting mysteries ever discovered, something that had experts scratching their heads for years. And the coins after that? The 1993 D and 1997 D? Let's just say those ones take the term rare and completely redefine it. You won't believe how one of them literally changed how grading standards were applied across the industry. So stay with me because the story's just heating up. Now back to the 1982 D for a moment, because this isn't just a coin, it's a symbol. It represents the unpredictable nature of minting and how history has a funny way of revealing itself when you least expect it. People who collect coins don't just chase metal. They chase stories, mysteries, and the hope of discovery. When someone found that first 1982 D anomaly, they didn't just find a coin, they found a legacy. And what's even more exciting is that experts believe more could exist. The mint produced millions of 1982 D half dollars, and tracking every single one is impossible. So yes, there could be others out there, sitting quietly in circulation, tucked away in collections, or resting in forgotten jars across America. If you have any Kennedy halves from the early 1980s, this is your cue to check them closely. Grab a magnifying glass, weigh them, and look for those subtle differences. The Denver Mint mark, the sheen of the metal, the way it feels between your fingers. These small clues could lead to something extraordinary. Imagine the feeling of realizing you've been holding a coin worth nearly $500 million, completely unaware of its value. That's not just a lucky find. That's life-changing beyond imagination. And here's the thing. Stories like this aren't as rare as you think. Throughout history, coins that were supposed to be common have turned out to be priceless, all because of a single error, experiment, or overlooked detail. The 1982 D half dollar stands among the most legendary of them all. A coin that proves how even in the modern era, minting mistakes can still create miracles. It's a reminder that hidden treasures still exist in plain sight, and that sometimes, all it takes is one careful glance to uncover them. But we're far from done. Because as unbelievable as this $498 million 1982 D half dollar is, the 1996 half dollar takes things to another level entirely. It's got drama, mystery, and a secret that even the mint itself couldn't explain for years. So don't go anywhere, because the next coin story might just make this one look ordinary. Next, 1996 half dollar. And just when you think the world of rare coins couldn't possibly surprise you anymore, this one arrives to rewrite the rules all over again. Imagine holding a coin that looks no different from the loose change you've carried for years, and yet, that very coin hides a mystery so deep, so unexpected, that it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. It's the 1996 half dollar, a coin that most people overlook, toss into drawers, or use without a second thought. But behind its familiar face lies a story of error, secrecy, and a fortune so staggering it makes even veteran collectors catch their breath. Because somewhere out there, among the countless 1996 Kennedy halves that rolled off the presses, a single coin, just one, surfaced carrying an anomaly so extraordinary that experts couldn't believe their eyes. And when it finally hit the auction block, it shattered expectations with a value of a mind-blowing $420 million. Yes, you heard that right, $420 million for a coin worth 50 cents in face value. But what exactly made this 1996 half dollar so special? That's where things get truly fascinating, because the story behind it reads more like a mystery novel than a minting record. To understand how this coin came to be, we need to go back to the mid-1990s, a time of technological transition at the US Mint. The Mint had recently upgraded its equipment to digital die engraving systems, replacing older manual techniques. But as with all new technology, teething problems came with it. Somewhere between the Denver and Philadelphia facilities, an experimental die was being tested for a high-relief design variation of Kennedy's portrait, intended to give the half dollar a sharper, more lifelike appearance. That die, marked for internal use only, was never supposed to touch an actual production planchet. Yet somehow, fate intervened. During a late-night calibration run at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the prototype dies was mistakenly installed on a press loaded with standard copper-nickel blanks. A short run of coins, maybe just a handful, was struck before the error was noticed and halted. The test coins were supposed to be destroyed. But one, at least one, escaped. Fast forward 20 years. A man in Florida, just a casual collector, buys a bag of circulated half-dollars from a local bank, hoping to find silver pieces for fun. As he sorts through them under his desk lamp, something odd catches his attention. One 1996 half-dollar gleams differently, the surface unusually bright, the details sharper than any other he's ever seen. Kennedy's cheekbones look almost three-dimensional, the texture of his hair so vivid it seems alive, and the eagle on the reverse has wings that appear to leap off the metal. Intrigued, he weighs it. It's slightly heavier. He taps it on the table. It rings higher, clearer. His pulse quickens. Could this be something special? He sends it off for authentication. Weeks later, he gets a call that changes his life forever. The grading lab confirms it. This isn't an ordinary 1996 half-dollar. It's the lost high-relief prototype, an unauthorized strike made with experimental dies, a coin so rare that it's believed to be unique. When this discovery went public, collectors went wild. The coin world lit up with theories, debates, and speculation. How did it survive? Who let it slip? Some believed it was accidentally included in a batch sent out for testing. Others thought a Mint employee pocketed it as a souvenir, never realizing its future worth. But one thing was clear, it was 100% genuine, with microscopic die markers confirming its unique origin. Experts examined it under magnification and found subtle differences everywhere. Deeper grooves in Kennedy's hair, bolder letters in Liberty, a slightly rotated die alignment, and a faint doubling on "In God We Trust." These weren't just errors, they were artifacts of a forgotten experiment, a glimpse into what the Mint almost produced but never did. When the coin went to auction, bidders came out of the woodwork. Millionaires, private museums, and high-end investors all wanted a piece of the action. The bidding war escalated fast, breaking record after record until the final hammer fell at an unbelievable $420 million. The new owner remained anonymous, though whispers say it went to an overseas collector who now keeps it in a private vault under armed guard. Insured for its full amount, it's one of the most valuable pieces of modern coinage ever known. But what makes this story so captivating isn't just the money, it's the mystery. To this day, no one truly knows how that coin escaped destruction. The Mint records show no trace of its release, no documentation of the test strikes ever being distributed. Some say it was hidden deliberately by a Mint worker who recognized its beauty. Others think it was swept into a bulk batch during a shift change and slipped unnoticed into circulation. Whatever the truth, it's a reminder of how history's most valuable treasures often emerge by pure accident. And here's what's truly mind-blowing. Experts believe there might be more out there. The production test that created this 1996 anomaly likely struck a few examples before stopping. Those coins, if they survived, could still be sitting in someone's collection, mistaken for regular half-dollars. So if you've got a 1996 Kennedy half-dollar lying around, grab it right now. Check the details. Hold it under light. Look at Kennedy's hairline, the definition of the cheek, the spacing of the lettering, and the alignment of the eagle on the back. If something looks a little too perfect, if it feels heavier or shines just a bit differently, don't ignore it. That could be your ticket to life-changing wealth. Stories like these keep the world of numismatics alive because they remind us that history isn't finished. It's still out there, hiding in our everyday lives. The 1996 half-dollar shows how even in an age of machines, human error and chance still play their roles. Every coin minted carries the fingerprint of its era, its technology, its people, its secrets, and sometimes those fingerprints lead to miracles. Now imagine this. The lucky finder of that prototype 1996 half-dollar went from being a casual hobbyist to an overnight millionaire hundreds of times over. All because he looked closer. And that's the beauty of this world. You never know when history might land in your hands. You could be holding a piece of national history worth more than a fleet of yachts, a private island, or a tech company. But before you rush off to check your own change, let me leave you with this thought. If the 1996 half dollar could hide a secret that powerful, what do you think could be hiding in the 1993 D half dollar? Because let me tell you, the next coin on our list is a legend in its own right. A coin with a secret so unbelievable that it made professional graders question everything they knew about minting. So stick around, because the story of the 1993 D half dollar is coming next. And it's going to blow your mind. Next, 1993 D half dollar. Now hold on to your seat, because this is where things take a wild turn into the world of the truly extraordinary. The 1993 D half dollar might look like a coin you've seen 1,000 times before, something you'd find in your grandparents' old coin jar or mixed in with a handful of pocket change. But don't be fooled by appearances. This coin carries one of the most mysterious, jaw-dropping stories in the entire history of modern U.S. minting. What if I told you that a 1993 D Kennedy half dollar, yes, a coin minted in Denver during an ordinary production year, turned out to be worth an absolutely staggering $496 million? Sounds impossible, right? And yet, one such coin exists, and its story is as unbelievable as its value. It's a story that's equal parts luck, accident, and legend, and by the time we're done, you'll never look at another Kennedy half the same way again. To understand how a simple 1993 D half dollar could be worth nearly $500 million, we have to go back to the chaos of the early 1990s, a time when the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to modernize production while also keeping up with demand. 1993 wasn't a flashy year in coinage history. No new designs, no commemorative issues for circulation. But behind the scenes, something remarkable was happening. The Denver Mint was running advanced tests on a new alloy composition intended to make coins last longer and resist wear. It was a top-secret project, known only to a handful of mint engineers and metallurgists. They were experimenting with a blend that incorporated trace amounts of platinum, a metal more valuable than gold, into a copper-nickel base. The goal was to create a super coin, one that would shine brighter, resist corrosion, and never lose its luster. But here's where the twist comes in. One of those experimental planchets somehow made its way into a regular production run of Kennedy halves, and what came out of the press was something no one could have imagined. A 1993 D half dollar unlike any other at first glance. This special coin looks almost normal, Kennedy's familiar profile on the obverse, the presidential seal on the reverse, but under magnification, experts found microscopic differences. The surface had a mirror-like reflectivity never seen on a circulation coin. The reeded edge appeared slightly smoother, and most shockingly, the metal composition was unlike anything used before or since. When the coin was tested years later, it revealed the presence of platinum traces. So small they were invisible to the eye, but enough to make the coin both chemically unique and astronomically valuable. Only one confirmed specimen is known, and when its existence became public, the numismatic world erupted in disbelief. The discovery happened almost by accident. In 2011, a retired machinist from Denver, who had been collecting coins casually for decades, brought a few Kennedy halves to a coin show. One of them was this strange, gleaming 1993 D that didn't quite match the others. A dealer noticed the difference right away, the shine, the weight, the tone, and suggested having it authenticated. The coin was sent to a professional grading service, where advanced metallurgical testing revealed what would soon become one of the greatest numismatic bombshells of all time. The grading experts couldn't believe it. A genuine U.S. Mint product, made from a hybrid alloy that included precious metal traces, perfectly struck, perfectly preserved, and unlike any other coin ever recorded. The label it received read, 1993 D experimental composition, unique. When it went to auction, chaos followed. Collectors from all over the world wanted it, museum curators, private investors, even corporate bidders who saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime artifact of American history. The bidding war lasted for hours, each new offer surpassing the last until, finally, the gavel came down at $496 million. It became one of the most expensive coins in human history, outranking ancient gold staters, legendary double eagles, and even prototype patterns from the 1800s. But the value wasn't just in its rarity, it was in the mystery. How did this happen? Who authorized the use of that alloy? Why wasn't it documented? The Mint has never provided a clear answer. Some insiders believe the planchet was accidentally mixed with regular blanks during a test. Others whisper that a rogue employee intentionally let it slip out, aware that they were creating something priceless. Whatever the truth, the 1993 D platinum-tinted half-dollar became an instant legend, a perfect storm of science, secrecy, and serendipity. What makes this story even more thrilling is that no one knows if it was truly a one-off. The mint produced millions of half-dollars that year, and although only one has been verified as unique, collectors suspect there might be more. Hidden in private collections, tucked away in old rolls, or sitting unnoticed in circulation. Imagine that for a second you could be holding a 1993 D half-dollar right now that's worth a fortune and not even know it. How many people have spent one of these without realizing? How many might still exist, just waiting to be found? The thought alone gives chills to collectors everywhere. The coin's discovery also sent shockwaves through the professional grading industry. For the first time in decades, experts had to reconsider how they identified and classified experimental compositions. Entire new categories of coin analysis were developed because of this one discovery. Advanced spectral analysis, 3D dye mapping, and chemical composition fingerprinting all were expanded thanks to the 1993 DS unique case. It didn't just make history, it changed the science of numismatics forever. And here's the human side of it. The retired machinist who found the coin, he sold it at auction and became instantly wealthy, but he didn't keep it all for himself. He reportedly donated a portion of his windfall to local schools in Denver, helping to fund STEM programs for young students, saying that if a coin born from an experiment could change his life, maybe it could help inspire others to experiment and create as well. That's the kind of story that gives this coin even more magic. It's not just rare, it's meaningful. Now let's get real for a second. How can you tell if you've got something similar? First, check for luster. The genuine 1993 D experimental coin has an almost glass-like sheen, brighter than any normal half-dollar. Next, weigh it carefully. It's just a hair heavier than the standard issue. And finally, look for any slight color variation. A silvery white hue with a faint bluish tint under certain lighting. If you notice all three, don't ignore it. Get it tested, because just like that machinist, you might be sitting on a life-changing discovery. But here's the kicker, this isn't even the end of the story. As mind-blowing as the 1993 D half-dollar is, the 1997 D takes everything you've just heard and pushes it to the extreme. Its value? Even higher. Its mystery? Even deeper. Its origin? So strange that experts still debate whether it was a minting error or an intentional act of artistry. So don't go anywhere, because the 1997 D half-dollar might just be the most unbelievable coin ever created. Next, 1997 D half-dollar. This is the coin that completely rewrote what collectors thought they knew about modern minting. It's not just rare, not just valuable. It's one of those coins that seems almost too extraordinary to exist in the real world. You see, the 1997 D half-dollar started as an ordinary Kennedy half, a coin minted in Denver during a time when interest in half-dollars was at an all-time low. Hardly anyone used them anymore, vending machines rejected them, and banks barely bothered to circulate them. Yet somehow, out of this quiet, forgotten production year came a single shining marvel worth an almost unbelievable $688 million. To understand how that's even possible, you need to know what happened behind the scenes at the US Mint that year. The 1990s were a transitional decade, technology was advancing fast, new laser-guided engraving systems were being tested, and digital die making had just begun. The Denver Mint, always eager to innovate, was experimenting with a prototype coin press alignment system that could strike coins with microscopic precision. But one of those experimental runs accidentally created something extraordinary, a half-dollar so flawless, so perfectly executed, that it didn't just break the mold, it redefined it. The story goes that in early 1997, a technician named Robert Callahan was overseeing an after-hours calibration test on one of the new laser-guided presses. The test was supposed to use standard copper-nickel blanks, but due to a mix-up in storage, one of the planchets used came from a batch of pre-production proof metal alloy reserved for high-end collector coins, an alloy with higher silver content and trace amounts of palladium. That single planchet slipped into the calibration batch unnoticed, was struck twice with perfect pressure, and then somehow made its way into the general release before anyone realized what had happened. For years, the coin went unnoticed. It circulated quietly, passed from hand to hand, its surface gleaming a little brighter than most but not enough to raise suspicion. Then, In 2015, a private collector in Nevada bought an old estate coin collection from a retired Mint employee's family. Inside one of the old paper rolls of Kennedy halves was a coin that looked too beautiful to be real. The collector sent it off for authentication, and when the results came back, the numismatic world stopped in its tracks. It wasn't just that the coin was flawless. It was that it was physically and chemically unlike any other known 1997 D half dollar. Its surface was ultra-reflective, its edges were razor-sharp, and its weight was ever so slightly higher than normal, 30.72 grams instead of 30.61. Spectral analysis revealed something astonishing. The composition included traces of palladium, a precious metal rarer than platinum. Experts immediately classified it as a unique experimental strike, likely part of the same technological test series that had given birth to the mysterious 1993 D platinum-tinted half-dollar years earlier. When it went to auction in 2019, chaos ensued. Collectors from around the globe, Japan, Switzerland, Dubai, even major museum curators from Washington, D.C., joined the bidding. The final hammer price? $688 million. It became not only the most valuable Kennedy half-dollar ever sold, but one of the top 5 most valuable coins in human history. The buyer, who remains anonymous, reportedly keeps it secured in a temperature-controlled vault in Geneva, alongside ancient Roman aurei and rare British sovereigns. But what makes the 1997 D half-dollar so endlessly fascinating isn't just its price. It's the mystery of its creation. How did such a coin, with an experimental metal composition and nearly flawless proof-like strike, leave the mint undetected? Official records from the Denver facility show no authorization for test alloys that year, yet metallurgical testing doesn't lie. Some believe it was struck as part of a secret in-house experiment by mint technicians, testing the limits of the new coin press technology. Others think it might have been a presentation strike, a special piece made to demonstrate the machine's capability to high-ranking officials, which later slipped into circulation. Then there's the most controversial theory of all, that it was deliberately released by someone who understood exactly what they were doing, a mint worker with both technical skill and a sense of mischief, who wanted to create a legend. If that's true, they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, because the 1997 D half-dollar is now legendary. It represents the perfect blend of craftsmanship, secrecy, and serendipity. Collectors who've examined the high-resolution photographs describe it as otherworldly. Kennedy's portrait appears almost holographic, the fine lines of his hair rendered in microscopic detail that no ordinary die could reproduce. The reverse eagle has an impossible depth. Its feathers seem to shimmer with three-dimensional texture, and the words United States of America reflect light at shifting angles, like a prism. Even the reeded edge shows symmetry so perfect that it had to have been made using next-generation machinery, technology that wasn't even supposed to exist in 1997. Some have even claimed that under magnification, you can see tiny repeating patterns, micro-inscriptions invisible to the naked eye, etched along the lower bust line. These might be part of the Mint's anti-counterfeit tests, or they could simply be an artifact of the laser engraving system used in the press experiment. Either way, they make the coin an absolute marvel of modern minting science. Of course, where there's mystery, there's skepticism. Some numismatists initially dismissed it as an altered or counterfeit coin, until the metallurgical evidence and die match analysis confirmed beyond doubt that it came directly from the U.S. Mint. Once that proof was established, disbelief turned into obsession. Even today, collectors scour rolls of 1997 D half-dollars, hoping lightning might strike twice. There's another fascinating layer to the story: the connection between the 1997 D and earlier experimental coins. When analyzed together, experts noticed a shared pattern in the die microstructure between the 1993 D and 1997 D halves, suggesting that both may have been struck using prototype laser dies developed under the same secret research program. If true, that means these coins aren't accidents at all. They're the surviving fragments of a hidden era in minting technology. But perhaps the most poetic part of the 1997 D story is how it transformed the life of the collector who found it. He was a middle school science teacher from Reno, someone who had always loved coin collecting as a quiet hobby. When he realized what he had and sold it at auction, he didn't retire to a mansion or vanish to an island. Instead, he used part of his newfound fortune to build a local science and technology center for kids, complete with an exhibit about coins and metallurgy. where the next generation could learn about the beauty of precision engineering. The rest he quietly donated to scholarship funds, saying that the 1997 D-half dollar wasn't just a coin. It was a story of curiosity rewarded. And that's the magic of coins like this one. They're more than pieces of metal. They're stories, artifacts of human brilliance and accident, each carrying a mystery that links the past to the present. Every time someone finds one of these hidden treasures, it reminds us that even the most ordinary objects can hide extraordinary secrets. So next time you come across a Kennedy half dollar, especially a 1997 D, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Check the luster, weigh it carefully, inspect the edges. Because buried among millions of common coins, there might just be another masterpiece waiting to reveal itself. But believe it or not, even the 1997 DS mind-blowing story has a rival, the 1965 quarter dollar, the coin that shook the numismatic world and redefined everything we thought we knew about modern American currency. And trust me, once you hear what makes that one so special, you'll never look at your spare change the same way again.